Ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening to one and all present here. I am Unnati Agarwal, a core member of AWS User Group Dehradun. Welcome to day 6 of our AWS Generative AI Bootcamp. We are halfway through this journey and it's been phenomenal. On July 5th, we explored text generation with AWS with Akansha Rai Sharma, where we learned about effective text generation techniques and hands-on implementation strategies. Today, we have an exciting session on end-to-end Gen AI development using Amazon Bedrock with Vivek. Thank you all for being here today. Your dedication to learning and exploring AWS and generative AI is commendable. We are thrilled to welcome back Vivek Raja, who will guide us through end-to-end Gen AI development using Amazon Bedrock. Vivek's expertise and practical knowledge will be invaluable in today's session. Here's what we have planned for today. Recap on generative AI and LLMs, introduction to Amazon Bedrock, hands-on Bedrock via Lambda, API Gateway, Photo 3, and CLI, and much more. Immerse yourself in the world of generative AI with Amazon Bedrock. This masterclass is designed for all levels, covering the fundamentals of generative AI and LLMs, practical hands-on experience with Amazon Bedrock, and many more. Stay engaged and participate actively for a chance to win exciting rewards. Without further ado, I invite Mr. Vivek Raja to begin. The stage is yours, sir. Let's the venture begin.
Sure, and thank you. I hope I'm audible. Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much for a wonderful intro, and I'm very excited and happy to deliver today's session. So today's session is something everyone would have been searching it for. Like you wanted to know what is generative AI, you have been studying about it, you have been reading about it, and you wanted one session that could tell you everything that what Amazon Bedrock or generative AI on AWS can actually help you to do. So I think that is the reason, and that's the motivation for me to take up this session. And it covers everything, at least on the initial level, that how and what all features that Amazon Bedrock has. And the best part is, I'm going to demonstrate every single thing that we're going to learn today. So that is going to be today's agenda. And there's going to be a lot of interesting stuff. So I want you guys to ask more questions, and I'll be asking more questions to you as well. Keep dropping your answers as well as queries in the comment section. I'll be taking it up as I deliver this session. So before we go, sorry. So what I do, so I'm Vivek. I'm VP of Product at Nexstem. So Nexstem is a BCI company which develops devices to monitor your brainwaves. Yep, we do some cool thing. And I'm AWS Machine Learning Hero. And also I'm leading the AWS User Group Madurai, which has been nominated as the best user group in 2022 as well as in 2023. And also I'm a recipient of Invent and Simplify Award at AWS Community Day Leaders Summit at 2022. So I've been a huge passionate person for machine learning, and this is where I have been spending most of my early college days as well as nowadays. And I have dabbled into not just in AWS but also in other cloud providers. So today we all know that there is a huge hype that exists with generative AI, and I'm going to make it very simple for you guys to make sure that you can learn about it. So besides that, I love taking part in hackathons. I publish a lot of research papers, and besides all this, I do also love watching movies. And if you are connected to me in Instagram, if there is an Instagram handle for me professionally, I usually send a lot of reels as well. So that's it. And if you haven't connected with me or our user groups, feel free to scan this QR code and go to all the links and then get connected with me. And I'll be happy to answer your queries over the DMs as well. So with that being said, what's been happening in this generative AI bootcamp? So you guys have been so active throughout our first 5 sessions, and we have achieved an incredible milestone. And thanks to every one of you who have been enthusiastic about this, We have received more than 100 plus AWS Party Rock submissions, and almost 50, 60 submissions came while we are presenting, while I was actually presenting the session a couple of days back. So very enthusiastic people, and you have been trying to know what is generative AI is about, and 100 plus is a huge accomplishment which has been talked all over social media right now. And thank you, Dehradun, as well as my user group, Madhuri, for facilitating all this to happen. And at the end of the day, we are so happy that you are able to pick up and learn something new. So today we are going to raise the bar even more higher. So we are going to learn something even more incredible. To know that, let's jump into today's session. So my aim to deliver this session is to enable a lot of people at least to start or get to know about generative AI on AWS. So right now it's been 5 sessions, and if I ask you what is generative AI is about, you will be able to tell that, or you will be able to tell that what Amazon Bedrock does. But will you be able to know or do how to actually access those foundation models and do something, or will you be able to create custom knowledge bases for your own use case? For example, I'll throw you a lot of use cases as we go by, and if you come across a lot of any use cases that you can think of, let me know. So it's completely beginner friendly. And before we step into this session, I want to give a big disclaimer that there are going to be costs which is going to be involved in this, the demos and hands-on. But worry not, there are a lot of things to learn today. So all I want you guys to do is take up a notebook or your notepad or your uh, or whatever it is, and then keep writing down the terms that you come across new today and read about it. And that is how we are going to master generative AI on AWS today, along with me. So, with all being said, you can watch how the demos are being presented, so you will know how it runs in the real world as well. So this is going to be an incredible session, I believe, and I hope everyone is ready with your pen and notebook. And there is a small reason behind it why I asked you to do that, because the tasks are mostly aligned with how are you going to listen to today's session. So with that being said, let's jump into what is the agenda. So you have been listening about LLMs, Gen AI on AWS for 5 sessions past, correct? So today we are going to see, this is going to be a recap, a small recap, just to be sure that everyone is on the same page. What is generative AI, what is LLM is about, and everything. And then we are going to jump right into the session where we're going to first learn what is Amazon Bedrock, because that is a service we are going to leverage. And just to be told in one word, Amazon Bedrock is a managed service by AWS, which provides you a lot of foundational models and much more beyond it. We'll figure out what is that. And we are going to access those foundation models via Boto 3, which is your Python SDK by CLI and API gateway and everything. We're going to do that. And also, this is how you will be able to interact with your foundation models, as same as how you go and go to ChatGPT and then type something and you're able to get a response. You'll be able to replicate the exact same thing with this thing. And then second, we are going to learn something very extraordinary, something called RAG. Can someone in the comment section tell me what a RAG is about? It's not something that you put on the floor, okay? So what does a RAG means? If you know what is a full form of it, let me know in the comment section. And we are going to do something in such a way that you know that any foundation models or LLMs, or to be precisely put, ChatGPT does not have an access to your internal data. For example, it might be your college, it might be your company. And if you wanted to interact with those data as same as how you interact with any other foundational model, so from now on, I'm just going to make it clear. So wherever I'm going to use LLMs or foundational models, you should be in a position right now at the 6th day that we are going to refer to a foundational model which is able to access and read and generate data or text. Okay. Yeah, Rahul, this session will be available after live stream as well. So feel free to listen to the entire session and go back again and to revisit to specific topics if you feel that you need to learn again. Okay. So coming back to the agenda, that imagine that you have something that you wanted to query about your college. So, for example, you are having a chatbot, and the chatbot is part of your symposium or your college fest website, and people are coming and asking, do I need to pay rupees 100 to attend this event, or what is a food and beverages that will be available throughout the event? If you're able to respond to those stuff with your own custom data, how cool would that be, right? So to access those private data and connect that to an LLM or a foundation model, we are going to see how that can be done. And I'm going to give you some live experience how to do that. And next, we are going to do with something called um, how to create Amazon Bedrock agents. So we will talk about what is agent in little down, and we are going to see how that agents can be deployed and how it can be accessed. For example, you can consider agents as small minions that will go and do some job for you. Like, for example, make an API call and get a data from a database, or make an API call and get a database from somewhere else, or interact with a knowledge base, or do something. So if some action that is needs to be performed by an LLM outside your LLM ecosystem so that it can get the data for the LLM to make the right generative responses, that's agents. We're going to see that as well as a small recap, a small walkthrough around the demo. And we will see what is LLM evaluation. What does evaluation means? How many of you? Okay, a lot of people have been answering. Yep. So it is retrieval augmented generation. So it's not regenerative as Samuel. It's not regenerative. It is retrieval. So Bhavesh got it right. Bhavesh is one of the amazing community members from Gujarat. Hello, and RAG is a technique for enhancing the accuracy and reliability of generative AI models. Yep, that's the definition. Perfect. So we're going to learn all those stuff today. So if you find it overwhelming, all you have to do today is take take down your these terms in a notebook, and you can revisit anytime and go back and learn. So that's going to be today's agenda. All right. So last, I promised you guys on the day one that when we finish the day one session, everyone would have been having one generative AI app in your hand. And that was possible. So today I'm going to promise you that once we finish this session, you're going to be familiar with anything about Amazon Bedrock, that if someone walks to you and asks, hey, do you know how you can implement this using LLMs? And you should be confident enough to say that, yep, I know how that's being done and I can walk you through the process. And that should be the confidence that we will be able to get post this session. And I'll make sure that it's the session as well as the delivery is going to be aligned with the same. So I've set the agenda, and we're going to take a little bit thing. So I've already started giving you hints about start to write down what you learned today. It might be one liner, it can be a small hint, or it can be a topic name, but keep doing that. That's going to be some tasks that's going to be aligned today. So we will take a quick recap. So if anyone who has joined today for the first time, to make sure that everyone is on the same page, we're going to learn about what is Gen AI and what it does, like a basic stuff, to make sure that we can go to the next level. And yeah, it's Gen AI is everywhere. Like if you go ahead and talk about in any conference, generative AI, and if you go to any enterprise has a generative AI solution. So it has been everywhere, and everyone is talking about it. And at one point of time, I was feeling like those Homer Simpson, where everyone is talking about Gen AI, and I didn't know how to get started or how to learn. And I somehow figured out a way, learn through the videos, documentation, and everything. And today I'm going to be able to deliver a talk. And same wise, today we as User Group Dehradun and Madurai have enabled this complete bootcamp for you to learn what is generative AI from scratch. And especially today's session is going to teach you everything that you have to do with generative AI on Amazon. So that's going to be one interesting topic. So what is generative AI? It's a special type of machine learning, or we can call it as a subset, where it is has a lot of large language models, and we are going to these models have been trained in a huge, vast amount of data. So when I tell you about what is a huge, vast amount of data, it's nothing but your whole internet corpus. So these language models are able to learn a lot of data. And once you ask or once you prompt some input, it's going to reply back with some text, image, or anything that can generate an answer. So that's generative AI, and it is enabled and facilitated by these large language models. And when these models have been trained on a large amount of data, it is foundation models. So moving on forward, whenever I mention about LLMs or foundation models, it is right now I'm going to use that as an interchangeable term, but feel free to know the difference. So first, what is large language models? So we have learned everything, right? So we know it's trained on a huge data, but what does it really mean? Like, have you ever wondered, like, what does ChatGPT do beyond the screen that when you type in that input? So it's very simple. If I wanted to put it in a very simple manner, it's going to undergo a couple of processes. So when you take this internet corpus or a text data, we call it as tokens, and it is first passed to a word embeddings model. So if anyone who has been learning about machine learning or in the previous session about what is word embeddings, you can comment down that as well. So word embeddings mean you take the text or a string or a token and convert that into a vector. So vector is nothing but an array of numbers, simple as that. So it is going to make some relationships in such a way that each words in a particular sentence or the group, the whole corpus or a document is now converted in, and the words have been represented as numbers, and these numbers can be correlated with one or other wherever possible. So this is achieved by a word embedding models, and a lot of models have been already trained to do that. So this word embedding models, now it's nothing but an array of vectors, okay, since the document is nothing but a string. So these vectors, yep, so we got the right answer. The converting the words to a numeric value is embedding. Perfect. So the numeric values are also called as vectors. So when you pass this vectors to a transformer, it's not a typical transformer what you think about. A transformer is about, it's nothing but it has a self-attention modules with a forward feed mechanism. So I know these are some jargon words, but feel free to go and read about transformers as well as self-attention models. And it all started with a research paper called Attention is All You Need. Okay. So this numeric vectors or vectors by itself, when it is passed down into not just one transformer, but multiple transformer blocks, it might be, I'm talking about not just 5, 10, it can be a lot number of transformers. It understands the significance between the vector that is existing, the vectors, each vector that is existing, and the numeric value within the vector itself. So it tries to establish that relationship. And then when you now ask a query or a prompt, what it does again is, so now the model is completely learned that based on the whole internet corpus, it's able to figure out that what is the relationship between all the vectors, and everything is perfectly ready in an LLM, which is a foundation model. When you query that foundation model or when you prompt that foundation model, again, those prompt sentence is again converted into a word embedding, and then it is now passed down to these transformers. And based on whatever it has learned before, it's going to make an inference. So based on the input vectors and the vectors which has already learned, it's going to make a comparison and it's going to generate prediction. So this is how a large language model work. Very simple explanation, but if you wanted to learn more, go ahead and read about Attention is all you need, the research paper. That's a research paper name. And then learn about what is transformers, learn about what is word embeddings, and that's it. You are now you are able to know what is a large language model. So now everyone is clear, right? Any doubts on what is a large language model is about? Cool. So I think it's pretty clear. You give a corpus, convert those corpus into word embeddings, and then you put that into multiple transformer blocks and you generate predictions. Simple as that. So Now let's start about what is Amazon Bedrock. Amazon Bedrock is a managed service from AWS, which helps you to, which has a lot of access to foundational models, and you can easily build on top of foundational models. So now I'm going to give you a scenario and think about it. So let's imagine that you are the owner of GPT-3 or Amazon Titan. Like these are foundational models, okay? And I'm going to give you a task that, see, there are going to be millions of people who's going to be accessing this model. Like they're going to give prompts, and it's your task to make sure that um, to host it in cloud so that all 1 million people can access it at any time and so on. So you might be thinking that is a very, very simple task, right? You take the model, put it in cloud, it should be able to give you inference. No, now think about the complexity. This model is a huge model that is trained on the whole internet corpus, and it's sitting on cloud, and it is receiving over 1 million inference APIs. So that's a very, very difficult task. So to manage those infrastructure as well as to manage the security aspect of it, and so on, so it's a huge thing. Now let's just take. I'm going to make it much more difficult for you. Now you're working in a company or you're working in your college or something, and you wanted to build your own application on those generative AI models. Okay, you have your ChatGPT. Let's imagine that you have your own foundation model exclusive for your college fest or exclusive for your customer support or exclusive for insurance claim or exclusive for your company knowledge base. If you're able to build that, now again, there's going to be a complexity about the applications interacting with those foundation models and everything, right? So to make it very easy for you, okay, that's where Amazon Bedrock comes into picture. So Amazon Bedrock comes into picture with a couple of features, like it has access to a lot of foundation models, it has access to the infrastructure, it's able to spin up the whole infrastructure and set it up for you. And you can build Bedrock agents to do outside the ecosystem tasks like making an API call or tracing those chain of thought prompts. Don't worry about these jargon words right now, just throwing it out. You're able to figure out like how the LLM actually works and does stuff. So this is where the whole Amazon Bedrock comes into picture. It's going to take care of everything for you, and you're going to concentrate upon how to build that application or how to access those machine learning models or foundation models we talk about. So what's the benefit? We spoke about all the benefits, right? So security, accessibility, infrastructure, customization, you can do all this stuff. So now everyone knows what is a large language model, right? Now you will be able to easily understand this slide. That this slide was also discussed in the first day of the this bootcamp, but I'll repeat it again. So in the ML, if a foundation model is existing, what really happens is there are huge number of data, and the huge number of data goes under pre-processing. Can anyone write down what is the pre-processing that comes here for a foundational model? We just saw that in a couple of slides before. So let me know what is that pre-processing step we do here for this data. And then it is sent to a foundation model for training and so on so, or tuning, and you get a foundational model. And then with the foundation model, you are able to even apply that for a specific task, or you're going to give some extra data to it and fine tune the whole foundation model for your own specific data task. You can do it in two ways. Okay, we're going to see both the ways today. So can anyone now tell what is a pre-processing step that is involved with the foundation models? We just saw right now. Yep, it is word embedding. So you take the data and you convert those to word embeddings and you store it somewhere. You take that as a vector and you store it somewhere. Okay. So, and then you try to access those foundation models for your tasks, or you're going to fine tune with your own data and you're going to access it. So now everyone is clear about what is a LLM, what is, yeah, Amelia got it right. It's word embedding, correct. So everyone now knows what is an LLM or a foundation model. You know what is Amazon Bedrock and why we are actually using Amazon Bedrock here, right? So So it has a lot of foundation models. You can go and explore. Like a lot of companies create their own foundation models, just not OpenAI. We have Anthropic, we have Cohere, we have Stability AI, we have AI 21 Labs, and Amazon itself has a couple of foundation models by itself. Okay. So how do you build generative AI on AWS? So a couple of ways to do it. One is Amazon Bedrock, which is a fully managed service, easy to build, easy to scale, and that's one. And we have Amazon SageMaker, which is a typical managed server for machine learning. And again, it also has features for you to build, train, and deploy foundation models as well. And to handle this much of complexity, we have NVIDIA's GPU-powered, easy to instances and Trainium for that, and Inferentia is for your inference purposes. So you can run foundation model inference. So which is where I was telling, right? Your task is to go and deploy a huge foundation model on cloud. Now, how will you will be able to cut down the cost over there? So the best way is you can go and choose an AWS Inferentia for that, right? And depending on the complexity, you can go for easy to ultra clusters and so on. So again, typical services, what is available on GenAI. And today's our focus is only going to be on Amazon Bedrock, nothing more, right? Okay. So what all current models are there? We have cloud, we have J2, we have stable diffusion, and what are the model attributes like if it is only for text generation? We know stable diffusion is also used for text to image and so on. So and it has a token limit. So now you guys know what is a token, right? What is a token? We saw that in a couple of slides back. Token is nothing but the maximum input length that you can give to a foundation model, which we had seen over here. Tokens, right? So tokens, word embeddings, and some processing, and you get predictions. Simple as that. Cool. Now let's go to this one. Now we are going to get started with Amazon Bedrock. So that's more about the technical concepts. So you now know enough technical concepts to differentiate what's a foundation model and everything, right? And cool, very good. So Sonal also brought up a very good explanation that so foundational models are like building blocks. You have to start putting them together to build something. Yeah. So more like building blocks, that's a foundational block. Like that's the block that you start with. Like based on top of it, you're going to add an application, or you might add a generative AI agent, or you might attach that to a knowledge base, and so on. So you can do whatever you want, but you're going to start interacting with foundation models. And with foundation models, you can directly start interacting. It's not necessary you have to put something on top. So the first thing what we are going to do is we're going to get started with Amazon Bedrock. Yep, correct, exactly. So first, all you have to do is go to your console. So let's go to console. Again, I'm going to give you a big warning, guys, that this is going to involve costs. So I strongly suggest not to experiment free of like just go ahead and experiment it because you will incur some cost to do it. Make sure that you have figured out the necessary way to handle the cost or you have credits and so on. So, or else go and read about the necessary pricing that associates with Amazon Bedrock. Huge disclaimer before we go into it. I'll also write it down in the comment section so we don't get to forget it. Okay, sorry for that spelling mistake, but disclaimer, the costs are involved in this demo. So what you can do when I'm actually demoing, you can view it. I'm going to bear the costs for you guys and you can visually see how the things are being done and along with the explanation. And all you want to do, you guys to do is take a little bit of notes that what is involved and what are we talking about? What is the service name? And did I tell anything that you're not aware of, like LLMs, FM, prompt, and so on. So keep a note of all this stuff. Okay. So the first thing is you can go to your Amazon Bedrock, and I'm going to show you how that looks like. Okay, I think you can read about what what all it has and everything. And yes, so it has a lot of foundation models. It has playgrounds and it has a studio where you can go and enable and you can experiment with foundation models. It's a good one, but we are not going to cover Bedrock Studio in this session, but still fine. All right. So the first thing is what we're going to do is we're just going to experiment how that looks like. So you have been also experimenting with a couple of foundational models outside Amazon, right? You know where you're used to go. So let's assume that I'm going to do a chat. I'm going to select a model. You can select whatever model is it. So before all this are going to be there, what you guys, you won't be able to directly access models. So all you have to first do is go to model access, which you see over here, right? So model access is where you go and then you enable or you ask for model access as well. So for example, I need access to this, okay? And you need to give them an explanation why you are going to use it, and few does not need, and so on. So for example, when you click it, it asks about your company name, your URL, why are you actually going to use it, and they're going to approve based on that. So, but yeah, there are few, for example, go ahead and enable title. Pretty straightforward. You can be able to do that immediately. And even AI 21 Jurassic models are even available. You can do that. The first thing is you need to enable the access in the Bedrock for you to interact with those foundation models. Okay. And then the next thing is, yeah, that is one thing. Now let's go and play around with foundation models. Okay, no, nothing is involved. We're just going to do whatever it is. I'm going to select a foundation model called Titan Text Express. Okay, and context size is 8K. Can someone tell me what is it 8K here means? We have also saw this thing in the previous slides. Okay, you can comment down in the comment section. Let's see. So I'm going to write a prompt. What do you guys want me to write about? So let's say that explain me the difference between RDS and Aurora. Can okay, it's giving me that RDS as the difference between what is RDS and Aurora, the difference are it is both from AWS, as everyone knows. Yep, correct. 8K is of the context size, which you call it as tokens. Correct. RDS is a relational database service, and it gives you MySQL, Postgres, Oracle, SQL Server. And Aurora is a complete, fully managed relational database service that sits on top of RDS. So RDS is in your multiple engine database services that you can play on, and Aurora is a managed service for the whole thing. Okay. So in summary, RDS is a managed relational database service, while Aurora is a fully managed. Oh, sorry. Sorry. So Aurora is a fully managed relational database, and you can handle multiple it's very optimized for high performance and scalability. Okay, you can add files and do other stuff. So you guys can go and experiment this, how it looks like. So again, the cost which is involved here is for every single prompt, I'm spending around $0.00047. So again, be mindful about that. So next, we can also go and play with the text-based, again, whatever we saw over there. We can also see Meta's Llama or Coheres. We haven't got the access. I didn't enable the access for it, but yeah, this should also do for us. Again, it's about write the prompt and then you run it, you get the text. You can also generate images. So I'm going to do it from Stability AI, that model. So generate an image of a person delivering uh, an AWS presentation. Let's see what that gives you. Fantastic time. Okay, that's pretty nice, right? So it gives you like a lot of presentations is going on, and you can consider that to be in AWS. I wanted to do something better. So how would Madurai city of India would look like in 2050? Let's see what does it give. I'm not sure how it's going to give the picture. Don't blame me if the picture is not good. Okay. Oh, okay. We are an ancient city, so if you guys haven't visited Madurai, it's a very nice, amazing place. A lot of food and stuff to explore. So since it's an ancient city, it has brought up something, and we have a very, very, very a big monument called Madurai Meenakshi Amman Temple. So even our user group Madurai has a logo of the same, the Gopra of whatever we call it. So maybe it brought up to this all stuff. Anyway, cool. Now we know how to access Amazon Bedrocks with those playground. Now that's not real fun, right? So the real fun is how am I going to really access in my real time scenarios? So I'm going to access this via my foundational. I'm going to access this via my IDE or through my VS Code, which I use as my IDE. So if you really wanted to use that in a programmatical level or a setting, so let's see how to do it. And first of all, as we already discussed about, go and get your model access enabled. All right. So, and I'm going to skip few things with regards to how to set up your system and environment, but it should be fairly easy. So go to your view and extensions and make sure that you have AWS Toolkit, and then you sign into your AWS account, which should eventually show you something like this. Okay, cool. So it should show you something like this. Now let's go back to our code. So Boto 3 is an SDK where you can, it's a Python SDK where you can access AWS related services, and we'll go line by line how that looks like. Okay. So I guess it's much visible. Okay, it's too big. Okay. So you import everything and you're going to get the Bedrock runtime as a client, and I'm going to run that in my US East one. Okay. What is a model ID? I'm going to use Amazon Titan Text Express V1, which we already saw. And the input text which I'm going to give that is describe the purpose of a Hello World program. Someone suggest me a better one, right? Give me a better prompt. What should I go? Okay. Tell me about MS Dhoni. Probably. I don't know. Right. Okay. And we are going to invoke this model, and this is how you make a request. And we'll talk about this little later. I'm going to comment it down. We will see about it. So how to run this? Let me go to my terminal, and then I write Python 3 demo. This one it should eventually run. If not, we will debug. Okay, it's not able to locate my credentials, so I'm going to set my credentials. So it should be Amazon profile equals Vivek ML AWS. So it should work. And Python 3. It is working. Believe me, it is working. Okay, so oh, perfect, it came. So it shows MS Dhoni. It's Mahendra Singh Dhoni, known as MS Dhoni, former Indian captain, one of the great finishers, and debut in 2004 against Bangladesh. And yeah, it has given me a couple of contexts, right? Now, let's go back to something. So this is how you can access a generative AI model from this one. Yeah, I will provide you the code. All the code is available in AWS samples. What I will do is I'll consolidate all those links and code samples and everything, and I will hand it over the GitHub repo for the same soon. Will that work for you as well? I think that should be a fair enough. I'll point you out to the right resources, as well as I'll consolidate all the resource links, and I'll share at the end of the session in our WhatsApp group. That should be it. All right. So now we spoke something about embeddings, right? So embeddings is a model which converts your tokens to vectors. So can we access those embeddings and see how that vectors comes into picture? We can still do that. Let's do. So what I'm doing is um, I'm going to comment this out. Okay, I'm going to comment this out, and I'm going to uncomment this one and see how that works. So here the model ID is the embedding model. Okay, and let me run this one again. And what you should be getting here. Yep, it is should be the vectors. Like vectors is nothing but an array of numbers. So this is how your input prompt has been changed. Tell me who is MS Dhoni is this. Okay. So this is your embedding model, how that looks like. So pretty cool stuff. So now we are now capable of knowing about what is Amazon Bedrock, and we went around and played in the console how it looks like, and we also saw how to invoke and call this model. As a quick recap, we are using Boto 3 and set the model ID and give the prompt and make the and invoke those model and invoking is done here, and then you will be able to get the response. So invoking is done through invoke model command, and you have to send this body and model type and so on. So you can do this. You can go ahead and explore the samples where you can interact with an image model, you can interact with document, a lot of stuff. Okay, you can try it out. This should be a best starter code that you can begin with. Cool. Now let's go back to our presentation where we left off. Okay, we went in and did some playground stuff with Amazon Bedrock, and we also invoke those Bedrock models using Boto 3. And make sure that these models have been already granted access to you before you invoke it, or you will see, you'll encounter this one. So again, the warning I'm giving out here is the costs are involved. Be aware of it and be mindful. So this is something which I like to skip in today's session, since right now everyone knows how to access a foundation model. You can go ahead and access it from Lambda. So Lambda is your serverless functions, right? So you go ahead and invoke those models from Lambda functions, and it fairly has, okay. So this is the one. So it has all the explanation how to do it. You can go ahead and run this template and see how that looks like. Okay. This is something that you can take it up. I cloned it and I pinged it from INR AJ. So he has had this, and his blogs are pretty amazing as well, which I referred a lot of things for today's session. So again, going back to now, we learned three things. One, how to go to Amazon Bedrock, play with the playground and console. We also learned about how to access that via SDK. And we also saw about how you can go ahead and see how to access that in a serverless way, right? Three things is done. Now let's go to some more important stuff, which is going to be interesting. Now comes one, some couple of interesting stuff for this today's session. So have you wondered, like, whenever you go and access a foundation model, which you have access in your regular browser, ChatGPT or whatever it is. So have you always wondered that what if those LLMs are able to understand my knowledge base or my data, and then able to answer it back from that? That is more cool, right? Yeah, I know that having the whole internal corpus is much more better, but if you could also understand my private data or enterprise data, and then able to, for the query which I'm passing, which is, if it is able to give you the right responses, that's going to be amazing, right? So can anyone guess what are we heading out right now? What are we going to talk about? Which topic is it? Yep, it is RAG. We are going to talk about the retrieval augmented generation stuff. So there are three ways to do it, not just one. So what are the three ways to do? So we have retrieval augmented generation. So is where we incorporate external information, which we call it as RAGs or knowledge bases, and we try to do it. But there are multiple ways to do that. One is fine tuning. So let's imagine that you already have a foundation model and you retrain a very specific part, and which you call it as a fine tuning, and that will help you to adapt to your new information and new data. That's stuff. And the third one is pre-training. Pre-training is where when you have an LLM, before you train that to be a foundation model, you add your data to it, and then you retrain the complete foundation model from scratch, and that is your pre-training. Now, I'm going to ask you a question. Which is the most easiest way for us to help us to understand or access our external data? Is it RAG, or it is fine tuning, or it is pre-training? Can anyone comment down which is the easiest way to do this? Don't tell RAG because we are going to do that as a demo, but genuinely speaking, which is the easiest way to do that? Okay, I'm seeing a couple of RAG responses. I think it might be an earlier question, but yeah, pre-training is going to be the expensive one, as you know, because it involves a lot of infrastructure, and you have to retrain the whole corpus data, manage the data, do the whole training, and so on. So pre-training is very, very, very expensive, but it will give you a very good accuracy. Like the data which is learned by pre-trained model of those foundation models is going to give you better responses as compared to others as well. So that's a trade-off. Now comes to fine-tuning. Fine-tuning lands in such a way, in between such a way that you're still going to retrain your foundation model with a very specific or targeted data set. So in it here also involves your couple of retraining, again infrastructure cost. And again, what is the trade-off here? Yeah, it might give you better responses, but not as good as what you have for the pre-train. Now comes your retrieval augmented generation. So what is this guys talking about this continuously? And I'm not really telling you what is it doing. So imagine you have your own database or your own knowledge base or whatever you call it, or a bunch of documents, text documents or something. If you are able to connect those to your LLMs, and LLMs can refer to it to know more about some data, that's the whole concept is called RAG. Shall we see how it's going to be done? So before we go into that, I'd like to quickly go back to the first slide where I showed you about what is an LLM, right? A large corpus data, you send it to a word embedding, and that vectors go to transformers, and that's where you generate model. You're all right now also on the same page. Now let's see how RAG is going to come into picture. So what is RAG? RAG is, again, I spoke about RAG, I'm going to skip it. This is how a RAG works. So your LLM is already existing outside. Okay, this is your foundation model which is existing outside, and you have your own database. Okay, you have your own knowledge base, which you call it. What you do is when the query comes, okay, this query is passed down to your word embedding model. It gives you a vector, a couple of vectors, and this vector is stored in your database, which is over there. And not stored in database. This vectors is searched against the database for the context. It tries to match it. It gives you the specific results of that. That is a context, and the context is now given to LLM. So this query, as well as the new context that we got from the database, is going to be the answer. So I'll once again repeat it. It might be overwhelming to listen at the first place. So we all know how an LLM works, right? So how a query is being processed. So you give that to a word embedding model and you convert that as a vectors. So we also saw how the vectors look like. So imagine that all my database have been already stored as vectors in a database, okay? And then when a new query comes, my query is always going to be converted into a word embedding, which is vectors. Now I'm going to compare those word embedded query vectors to the database vectors and see what is the matching stuff and bring out the relevant context to the LLM along with the query. I'm going to answer it. So let's take a very simple example. Let's assume that you are working in a college setting, and let's take the first example which I've given you. For your college space, you have the information about how the event is going, and all the event related data, like what is the rules of the events, what's the cost of the events, and everything, is being already sent to an embedding model and created as a vector store, and it's being stored in vector database. So this is called a vector database. That's a new term. Okay, note it down. So we know what is a vector store, and it's stored in a vector database. And when a new query comes, the query might be, can you guys know the rules of capture the flag event which is happening in your college? Now, this is again converted into word embeddings. That query is going to be matched against the database, and it's going to search for the capture the flag event details, get the relevant context, give it to LLM that this is a new context that you have along with the query, and the LLM now will answer the same. Like it will put it together, and LLMs can generate with the new context. It's going to do it same. So now is everyone very clear? Now let's see why that name, the weird name, like retrieval augmented generation. Now tell where is the retrieval is going to be is done. The retrieval is being done over here. Where is augmented? What does augmented means? That you're going to club something together. So you're going to augment that information with the queries or the which is your context. So you augment it. And what is G? Generation. You're going to generate an answer. So this is RAG. So right now we have been seeing about RAG everywhere, but today, if now anyone asks you what is RAG is about, you'll be able to tell this context. So this is what RAG means. Again, there are much more complex architecture with regards to RAG. This is a very vanilla, simple RAG infrastructure. Now, to implement all this stuff, for example, the word embeddings, going and storing that in a vector database, and then going and searching the vector database and giving the context to the LLM, it's a very tedious task, right? What if someone automated it or given that as a managed service for you? And that's where your Amazon Bedrock comes into picture, which is going to leverage the knowledge bases and going to implement RAG. Sounds cool, right? Does anyone have a doubt before we go ahead and see how that works? Okay, it's I think it's very the explanation is good, I assume. So it's I'm not getting any more doubts. So good. So now let's go back to our console and see what we have here. So where does the knowledge base is? First, we need to create a knowledge base. Okay, the knowledge base is nothing but where I'm going to add more data to it. Okay, but before that, I'm going to show the difference between what is a RAG generated output versus what is being generated by a normal model. Okay, the normal model does not have access to the internet, or it does not have access to the recent data. So let's assume, and I'm just going to playground and show you something. How many guys watch cricket here or football? Okay, so everyone should be watching. Who is the winner of uh, ICC T20 World Cup? Let's see whether it's able to give you some. See, it does not really give you. See, it has information up to about till 2020. That's the recent information that it has. Okay. Now, what if I feed this foundational model with new data? Like I'm going to give the details about what all happened in the quarterfinals of Euro 2024 and also the World Cup. Okay. Now let's see how I'm going to do it. So I have two texts with me. Okay. I have two texts which has all the information about what is a quarterfinal match results and the World Cup details, like what happened in the finals actually, what happened in that. Now I'm going to create a knowledge base for this. I've already created a knowledge base for the interest time, but I'm going to show you how it's being done as well so that you can carry on. So first, let's go ahead and create a knowledge base and dummy demo, which I'm not really going to generate, but yeah. So you can give the necessary IAM permissions with that, and then data source name, and you're going to point that to an S3 bucket. So I already uploaded these two documents to an S3 bucket, and which is over here. I'm going to do it. I'm going to choose it and click next. Now you know what is an embeddings model, right? Which embedding model do you want to choose? It's up to you. I'm going to use the conventional one. It's not a big deal. Now comes the important question. Where do you want to store your vectors? Where do you want to access your vectors database? Like once you do the embedding and everything, you have to store it in a vector database for context retrieval, right? Where are you going to store it? So it's asking it whether you wanted to quickly create a new vector store So Amazon itself has a open search serverless vector database, and it will create it for you, and it will go and populate it for you. Or if you have something externally, for example, you can have Pinecone or Redis or so and so, you can go and so if you're a first time user, we need to go and create one vector database in Pinecone, and you can match all those connection strings and endpoint URL for it. But for simplicity, I've already created an Amazon Open Search vector database, and that's where it's going to store my embeddings. I'm not going to create it. Okay. So going to click next, and then wait, it's not allowing me to do it. So you know the vector dimensions. So whether you wanted to have a 1024 vectors or you wanted to have it as a 512 or 256, whatever it is. Why it is not allowing me to go for the okay, so once you click it and once you click and review and create it, resources, give us resources of other file. Yeah, sure, we'll do that. So once you create a knowledge base, it should be reflecting in your console something like this, okay? Which is a knowledge base of cricket football, and I created it today. Now let's assume how that works, okay? What you have to do is once you created it, you have to sync. You have to sync so that your model will be able to read those embeddings, okay? Read those vectors. So you have to sync it. Syncing will take a little bit more time, but I've already synced it very recently, which is today. So I'm going to directly, I've synced it. So I'm going to interact with the model. So I'm going to interact with the Amazon model here and saying that what happened in T20 Finals 2024. Let's see what it has. Perfect. Now it's able to show. We already saw that in the playground that it's not able to answer. It has a maximum of 2020. Now, but it's after giving an access to an external database or external resource, it's going to it has showed me that it has a thrilling encounter between India South Africa. It happened in MCG and we won by 7 runs. It's not MCG. Okay. So yeah. So whatever it is, so it is where we have got the same. So good one, right? So we now know how we are able to connect to a external knowledge database, and it's fairly simple. So that's how, but you know the internal working, that's more important, that how your RAG systems work and how that is being now implemented. So your embeddings and your vectors and everything is managed by Amazon Bedrock knowledge bases. And you just connect this LLM with those embeddings, and if you're able to send a query, it's able to answer it. So we have done the second step where we know how to leverage knowledge bases from Amazon Bedrock to implement RAG. So now everyone's in a place to tell that we will be able to access foundation models, and we will be able to give external data source to foundation models through RAG and do that. So now comes in another question. So for example, let's assume you wanted to your LLM to go and file an insurance claim for you, or let's assume that you're going to ask your food delivery support system that, see, I have experienced this issue, resolve this for me. So this LLM should be smart enough to perform a couple of actions. Like now, once it receives, it needs to put that in a database that these are the inputs that the user has given, evaluate that against the criterias, and then make some API calls to record that insurance claim or those customer support details, and then retrieve and then revert back saying that your insurance claim has been approved or your refund request has been approved, and it needs to initiate that refund and insurance claim. So LLM here only gives you the access about how to understand that context and respond to it. But the other stuff which is involved, which is about how to go and make an API call, or how to go and add this information to my file system or to my database or to my application, and then make an assumption or then test whether this person is eligible for an insurance claim, and then go ahead and then approve or access those insurance claim and process it. So all this external stuff which is being done, someone should be able to figure out that for you, right? So let's see who is going to do that. So why you really want to do that steps, like all those other extra stuff that you want to do? So LLMs are very powerful, that's no doubt about it, but it cannot take actions. It cannot go and access internet. It cannot go and access API calls. It cannot go and read some database queries or something like that. Okay. And even if you wanted to put all those external knowledge bases and everything together with this, it's going to make your LLMs very slow, which is going to be very awkward situation. And also, let's imagine that you're going to build one agent, let's call it as an agent, which is going to do that all your extra stuff for you. And that is going to be also expensive. You have to figure out how to interact with your LLM securely. And also, it needs to give you, make you a couple of do some productive tasks like making an API call, filing that in the system, filling up the form for you, and something like that. So building those agents are also quite complex and expensive, and it also involves a lot of security related aspect as well because it's accessing your enterprise data. And knowledge workers such as some customer support or insurance agent need some productivity tool. Like for example, if I am presented with an insurance claim form, I need to review, approve, and send it back, right? So to do all this for you, there should be some easier way to complete it. So that's where you have your something called agents, which we already gave a spoiler. So generative AI Bedrock agents, it helps your Gen AI app to execute multi-step business tasks. Okay, using natural language. So you just tell them that, see, here is my issue. Am I eligible for an insurance claim? That is your natural language. These LLMs, along with the agents, figure out how to do it and then execute a couple of actions like filing an insurance form, filling up an insurance form, and then reviewing it against the system, and then approving it and send it back. So all those stuff, it's being able to done by some persons or not person. It's done by some task. These tasks are executed by your agents. So it breaks down and orchestrates tasks in a sequential manner, like what to do and everything. And one thing we spoke about earlier is that if you build your own agent, like, yeah, it's still fine. It's a backend system, right? You can write a couple of API calls to make an API request and see how that works. But you cannot really guarantee that how securely you're going to perform or access that data. So you're going to securely access those company data and then surfaces the chain of thought, reasoning trace, and underlying agent prompts. So now is going to be something very interesting. Something that we're going to learn something outside Amazon Bedrock on the surface level, that what does this prompt engineering and all does. We all know what is a prompt engineering, like it's about tweaking your prompt to give the best response. But there are a lot of things that goes inside prompts. So if I give the prompt to an LLM or a foundation model to do something, if it's able to figure out a reasoning by complex reasoning steps, like this was the first action, I retrieved an answer from it. Based on that, I took the second decision. Based on that, I took a third decision. If we are able to route all this decisions and reasoning as a trace, then it should, that's how things should work, correct? So that is called a chain of thought reasoning. We will explain, we will also learn those two concepts over now. Okay, so Amazon Bedrock's agents are used to configure specialized agents that run actions on a natural language input, like when you give an input and your organization data. So when a user queries input and you have an organization data, to make some extra actions like do something or process a refund or update your database or update your dashboard, those extra steps are covered by your agents. And these agents can be created from Amazon Bedrock. Okay, so these managed agents play conductor, orchestrates the interactions between your foundation models, API integrations, your user conversations, and your knowledge sources. So if it's able to coordinate all this stuff for you, that's your Bedrock agents. So very clear, right? We now know what is an LLM. We know what is a foundation model. We now also know what is a knowledge base, like how you retrieve from an external databases. But to seamlessly orchestrate all this stuff like user input, making API calls, accessing your knowledge base, and do all this stuff, there should be some person that sits in between all this stuff, right? That is nothing but not person. I mean, the one who does it is your agents. So it does your task orchestration. It completes a fulfillment about your customer request and series of reasoning steps and corresponding action based on React prompting. We will talk about what is React prompting as well, and we spoke something about here as well. Chain of thought reasoning. So that is also prompt, and we also here it is about React prompting. And it integrates with your existing system to make some calls, and it queries your databases and your RAG, fully managed RAG with your knowledge bases. And it's also able to trace back and tell you that this is a source and this is the reason why I chose this particular result or why I chose to take this action. Okay, through chain of thought reasoning. So if you're able to trace back and identify why it took a particular decision based on the inputs and necessary inputs, how a decision is taken from another decision. So all this can be done by your agents. So we will talk a little bit about what is React and chain of thought. If it is an advanced topic, if it's feeling quite complex for you, feel free to ignore it. It's not, it's fine. So chain of thought is that you know that if you go ahead and see, go and ask your ChatGPT or any foundation model to explain something for you, and if you keep on asking some questions on top of it, like mathematical questions, like you have this, now tell me what I have with me. It won't really give you a correct mathematical answers. So that's one wrong thing. So now let's think. So if you're able to give some complex reasoning from a chain of couple of thoughts and reasoning, and if it's able to trace back, that's called chain of thought prompting. So it it is a prompt that has capabilities to generate answers to questions involving arithmetic and common sense reasoning. Okay, but its lack of access to the external world or the inability to update its knowledge can lead to issues like fact hallucination and error propagation. So we learned some new words and topic terms here, that we know what is a chain of thought, that it is going to create trace of reasoning, like why it answered like that. Okay, why it might not be a good option is because it does not have an access to LLMs, does not have access to internet, or it does not actively update the knowledge by itself, right? It does not do that. So if you go and ask ChatGPT something or your foundation model something, that will start randomly throwing some random words like, yeah, this is a reason that you're asked for this, and so and so. You may not really get an accurate responses for it. That is called hallucination. Okay, and the errors that you get from the responses might not really those errors are nothing but it is a mismatch of what you expect and what you receive. Okay, so standard prompting is that, okay, the Roger has 5 tennis balls, he buys 2 more cans of tennis balls, each can has 3 tennis balls, how many tennis balls that is have? Okay, the answer is 11. The cafeteria has 23 apples. If they used 20 to make lunch and bought 6 more, how many apples do they have? The answer is wrong. But if you, this is a standard prompting, but if you have it by your chain of prompting, then the answer gives you nothing but it gives you a reason of traces why it arrived at the answer. Okay. So the cafeteria had 23 apples. So they used 20. So it is 23 minus 20 is 3. They bought 6 more. So 3 plus 6 is 9. So it's able to give you a reason and a chain of reasoning behind how it does. What does React? So it's nothing but reason and acting. So RE stands for reasoning and act goes for action. So it combines the reasoning and acting with LLMs. Okay, it generates verbal reasoning traces and actions for a task, and then it has adjusts its plan while able to enable this interaction to external environments. Like chain of thought does not really have an access to your external this one, and it just has a reason behind why it makes a decision. But in React, it has actions that could also is an ability to go and interact with your external environment. Okay, so this is one example. You can go ahead and read it, but I'm just going to give you these as a food for thought that why these prompting all exist as well. Okay. Now let's come back to the whole stuff. So what we were actually talking about, we were talking about what is agents, why we have it, because LLMs are dumb to take actions. So we have that. So we have GenAI agents and everything, and we go ahead and create. So Amazon has a functionality for you to through Bedrock, you can create agents and maintain it. So before we start doing that, let's go and check what all the agents, what are the terminologies that we have. So the first one we have is agent. You know what is an agent? Agent is in Amazon Bedrock refers to those which interacts with users or performs specific tasks like accessing knowledge base or API integration and stuff. Agent Builder is a tool where you can create your agents and configure it. That's nothing. And action groups. So you assign agents to a particular action group, and this action group defines some parameters. So action groups are nothing but a set of tasks that the agent can perform on a user input. So they are defined by two things. One is schema to define those parameters. Like the schema involves like what all API operations that the agent can invoke, and what should be the parameters of it. Like if it does not have the enough parameters, the agent will prompt the users to tell me those information and everything. Okay, and then define the parameters the agent elicits from the user for task orchestration. Like as I said, like let's assume that this agent is going to make an API call to do something, and it does not have the enough parameters to make the API call. It also figures out that okay, now I need to get this information from user. It prompts it and gets it back. And Lambda function is where you have those orchestration. You actually execute it and get the feedback, and then provides the API response for the agent that will be given passed down to the user feedback, or it can pass down to the next task that the agent can be performing. Okay, can be both. So now this is going to be a little bit complex walkthrough, but since it involves a lot of steps and for the time and other constraints, I'm just going to walk you through the solution walkthrough that is available there. And we might take it up in future sessions when we deep dive into such levels. So before going into all this, we will go and see how that looks like. Okay, let me figure out where that is. Okay. So how are we going to do this? We are going to automate an insurance claim. We are going to automate an insurance claim using Bedrock agents and knowledge base from Amazon. Okay. What we're going to do is first, okay, let me see. Okay. Now let's see what is that solution looks like, how the solutions look like. So the first, the task, what the user has given a task is, oh, sorry. The task is create a new claim. Oh, sorry, guys. Okay. Oh, okay. Okay, I'll zoom it out as well. Oh no, sorry for that. A little bit clumsiness. Okay. So here we go. Here we have it. Okay, I'm going to give it here as well. I guess it's just visible. So the user has to create a new claim, and that is a prompt. Okay, this prompt is also has like conversational history, the task user input, and everything. So this now there is a agent which is going to create a new prompt saying that you're an agent designed to do something. Now you're going to create a new insurance claim. So it's going to invoke this to the foundation model. So it has already created, it has got this context and is going to create a new prompt. And then it's going to invoke a foundation model for it. So now comes your React prompting. Now we know why we learned what is React prompting. React prompting is where reason and action can also access some external stuff. So it is going to create an orchestration prompt like do this first. It's going to that is called a plan. So it's like step one, do this. Step one, make an API call. Step three, get the response from the API. Step four, do this. Okay, it is going to iteratively execute this task, or if there is a situation where it does not have enough information to execute the task, it will prompt the user to get it. Okay, now what it has, Now what it has, it's going to go and search the knowledge database and going to access the relevant information. Okay. And then these are claim documents and it is already available in the vector database, which is your open search. And it's going to search the documents and going to get the response. And after that, to file and claim, it's going to take all this information from the knowledge base, from the user, and from the all the steps that we have taken to the action API calls, and it's going to create a business logic like create claim, open claims, and gather evidence. And this is nothing but a sequence of steps or sequence of things. So this whole thing is done by your agent. So the whole thing, which is like from the prompt to create a new prompt, accessing a foundation model, and then creating a plan to execute the whole stuff, which involves getting the right information from the knowledge base and then figuring out what all information or what all APIs that I need to call to file that claim. So this is being done by your agent. So solution steps, so whatever we have seen over there is the same. Okay, it involves a cost. So, but I will show you guys how that looks like. Sorry. So how that looks like, so we went and saw it. So this is a solution that they have given. The workflow first, the user inputs, pre-processing. Action groups are set of APIs whose API, open API schema is defined by JSON and it is stored in S3. And it's going to run the business logic through Lambda functions. A knowledge base is going to give you more information through RAG, and then it's going to data sync. And during the orchestration, the agent develops a series of logical steps from the responses that it needs to make from the APIs and knowledge bases and everything, and then gives that to your foundation model, and then gives a response back. So how that this can be done? So the AWS have already given us for the sample a complete cloud formation template. We can just run this template and create all those resources in Amazon and then go ahead and work around it. So this is something that you guys can go ahead and work out and check this out and perform it if you have this one. So let me also walk you through how that works. So first is creating a knowledge base. You guys know how to create a knowledge base, right? So go and create a knowledge base. And then second is creating an agent. So the creating an agent is you go to your Bedrock console. I'll show you how that looks like. Okay, where is it? Okay, so agents are here. So you go and create an agent. Okay, go and click create. And then you're going to create and what is a foundation model that's going to do it, and you're going to create the action groups. So action groups involve like you're going to call multiple okay, someone has a question. Tell me what is prompt? I can't get it. See, prompt is an input that you give to a foundation model. That's it, nothing much more. So like you have been interacting with ChatGPT, right? You give some information, tell me this, tell me that. So that is what it happens over here, that the agent itself creates a prompt like to interact with the foundation model. And then it also creates a series of steps to go and make API calls, go and make access the knowledge base RAG through RAG and everything. And then prompt again the user or your foundation model to give back the result. So prompt is nothing but the input that you give to the this one. Okay, if you want to read more about what does that prompting mean, it's an amazing prompt engineering guide, promptingguide.ai. You can go ahead and read it, but you don't have to deep dive for this particular demo. So you create an agent and then you select a model and then you specify the following instruction for the agent. Okay, how that is. So you are an insurance agent that has access to domain specific. This is a prompt that we are giving to the Anthropic. So when I go over here and do it, which looks something like this. So what is the instruction I'm going to give to the agent? That it is a insurance agent and you have to gather the claims and you're going to do that. What is the action group that we have to create here? So the action groups here is go and add an action group and then create claim. So okay, so and then you're going to access the Lambda function which is needs to be called. And the Lambda function is what you mentioned over here. And what we mentioned over here is about the OpenAI schema, that it should follow an OpenAI schema to make a particular API call or something like that, right? So you have to do that. So you're going to define, okay, sorry. You're going to define that over here. So when I go and add it, so, oh, sorry. Okay. So agent name and everything is done. I'm going to add an action group, and you can either with the function or with the API schema. Okay, whatever it is. So if you go with the API schema, you need to mention that which API schema that you have been using, which follows the Open API Swagger schema, that whatever you use it. And then select an existing Lambda function. If you already have a Lambda function, you can do it. If not, you can point to the Lambda function which is created, and this will be executed based on this schema. So this is how you create an action group with the agents. And the whole functionality over here is that it needs to call create claim, open claims, and then gather evidence. So this is what this action group is going to perform. Okay. Now let's again go back to this one. We are creating two action group. One is to gather evidence, one is to send reminder. And then for the knowledge base, they have already created a knowledge base and they have attached the necessary files to it. We know how to create a knowledge base, right? And then once you all do this, now with the action group, with the knowledge base, and with the initial prompt that you're given, what is your agent is going to do? Your agent is an insurance validation agent, right? Now, if you put all the things together, like the description of the for the foundation model, the prompt for the foundation model, the knowledge base, as well as the agent groups. Once you fix everything, and if you right now put, please file a new claim and the relevant information, it will evaluate, it will find, it will execute the right foundation models, query the foundation models, and then go and invoke the right action groups and those APIs, and then it's going to figure out how to perform it. So this is how it's performed. So basically, today we learned around how that solution walkthrough comes around. So we know what is. I know that Bedrock agent is a little bit tricky to get it on the first try, but yeah. So agents which can do some extra actions for the foundation models are called agents. It can access knowledge base or API calls. And then for Amazon, it is being done through Amazon Bedrock agents, which gives you the whole interface for you to do it. And then we now know like how that internally, like though it's not explicitly mentioned, like how that internally your RAG has been like how that agents orchestrates the task which is needs to be executed, like what's the task one, what is the task two, what is an API call that it needs to make, and everything. So all that, and we know what is a React prompting. It works based on the React, like reason plus action. It takes a reason and then takes an action based on the reason. And we know what is an agent builder, and action groups is where we define the open API schemas to make the API calls or to invoke those Lambda functions for the same. And then we saw through the whole solution setup. So all you have to do is go to that sample and then run all the code, and you will be able to recreate this whole demo from there as well. So we have covered almost 70-80% of today's talk, which involves, first of all, we saw about what is generative AI and what is large language models. We then saw about what is Amazon Bedrock and why it is helpful for us to access and scale and build or train foundation models. We also saw how we can interact with foundation models in the Amazon console, AWS console, and from the both of three, from the programmatical level. Then we saw about what is a knowledge base. So how to create a knowledge base that so that your foundation models can access external data. And then we saw a small demo about creating a knowledge base, and then we experimented how it was able to answer from the new text, that new knowledge base that we have given. And then we now saw about agents. Agents are the one which acts as an interface or an orchestrator between your foundation model, your APIs, knowledge base, and everything. and it is capable of creating an orchestration plan that it's going to execute the task 1, task 2, task 3 based on the reason and the actions with the React prompting. And with that, we were able to understand the whole setup for how the Bedrock agents work and why it is easy for us to go and create an agent in Bedrock and to define all this stuff for you. So this is going to enhance your ultimate production level deployments with LLMs. Okay. So now we are going to come to one last topic, which is about evaluating foundation models. So throughout this particular topic, we saw a few things. We saw a few terminologies that saying that your LLMs or foundation models won't be able to give you the right answers every single time. Or even if it does not know the correct answer, it starts to give some random answer which is not really relevant for the answer that we are looking for. So especially in the text generation or image generation, whatever it is. Okay. To evaluate how well the foundation models are, that's what we call it as LLM evaluations. So in that, how we can do it? So you guys have been using chat GPTs and everything, right? So how do you know that the chat GPT has given you the right answer or not? So when you ask a input or when you ask a query, how did you know that it has given you the right answer or not? So you read the answer and you see that okay, this is not really what I was expecting. It's not really matching the inputs that I did it right. So that is one way of doing it. So what are the ways that we could evaluate a foundation model? Okay, so that it does not generate toxic or biased content that we wanted to put it out to the public or users. So what all the evaluation tasks that we have, the foundation model can have an open-ended generation like chatting and so on. So it can summarize text, it can do question answering, it can classify, assign, label, score, and if you want, you can actually define a custom evaluation as well. So these are different ways how the LLM works, and you can and that we can evaluate how well those tasks have been performed by those foundation models. So, for example, if you go to a foundation model and tell and ask it to explain a particular topic, it's going to create an open-ended generation. It might be able to do well, but it might not really do well in summarizing part. Or there is a foundation model which does a good question answering, but it really does not do a good text summarization or an open-ended generation. So, with that all being said, this is not the how are you going to evaluate how well this foundation model is capable of doing some specific tasks? Okay. So, so how can you actually, so we know that we can evaluate a particular model. We'll come back to this inference parameters a little bit later. What are the different ways you can evaluate those foundation models? Now let's go back to our console and see what all options that the Bedrock has before we do that. Okay, so go to model evaluation. Okay, so what is given here is there are three things. One is automatic. So what you do is it evaluates a single model, okay, with recommended metrics like the metrics can be accuracy, like how accurate the answer is, how toxic, in the sense like how inappropriate responses that it throws out and everything. And for different tasks, like for text summarization, Q&A, for open-ended generation and everything, it's going to evaluate every single task, how this model has performed, and it's going to give us the metrics. So you cannot use the same metrics across, right? For example, classification, the metrics, best metrics that is going to be involved is F1 score. But if you go and check about the toxicity or the text summarization, we are going to compare how well the text have been actually summarized versus the response that we receive from the foundation model. So we can create those evaluation models. The second thing is you can bring in humans to evaluate those answers. Like the response, when the responses come from the foundation model, you can evaluate whether it's a good response or a bad response. And human can approve or disapprove a particular responses. So that's the second way to do it. And third one is the human. This is our own work team that me, my friend, or my company or my colleagues sit together to do that. AWS also gives you those evaluations in such a way that AWS brings in their own people to evaluate your models for you. So how to do it? We are going to create an automatic job evaluation. I'm going to give name eval, and then what model I'm going to evaluate. I'm going to evaluate Amazon, Titan, I'm going to see how well it has been doing the text classification. And the metric here is accuracy. You can go for other metrics, whatever it is necessary. And then the robustness, then where you need to store your evaluation results, like you can point to your S3 bucket, and then you can create it. So what it does is, where it is a prompt data set. So for example, to evaluate how well it is does, so it has its own data set, which is a women's e-clothing reviews. And it will first give that as a prompt to the model, and the response what is going to get is it is going to evaluate from the existing results, like how well the text summarization went or classification went. Okay, if I change the Q&A, it has a Q&A related prompt data set, and it's going to evaluate against it. Or if I'm going to go for a text generation, it is going to use the necessary prompt data set and this one. So this is how you can, it is going to run this prompt data set and then going to get the responses from foundation model and then compare and then create a comparison metric that how well it performed in that particular task for the evaluation. So that's model evaluation. It can be done in two ways. One is automatic, or you can bring in your own human. So how that you can do it? I'm not going to run evaluation models for today, but it should be fairly good for you to get started. You set up your team, you bring in people, and then you provide your instructions to the humans how to approve or how to disapprove, how to rate a particular response, and then you set up this whole thing. So this is called your foundational model evaluations, how we are going to evaluate how well the foundation models have been here. And now let's go back to our presentation. So now we know what is an automatic model evaluation through human workers and so on. So now we have actually ran through a lot of topics today, and I hope so it was easy. And I'm going to get a 5-minute window from all of you guys to see if you have any queries or doubts that we could take up. And you can drop these queries in the chat. So, yep, thank you for those comments. Really, it's motivating, and thanks for. I hope so. It was very easy as well. And thank you everyone who was able to give me the prompt answers whenever it is wherever it is required. And good time. So we saw about Amazon Bedrock. We saw about what is generative AI. We saw how to access Amazon Bedrock foundation models. We also saw about um, how to play around with Amazon Bedrock in the playground. And then we also saw how to access it with Boto 3. And then I also gave an open-ended thing for you to go and try how to do that from Lambda. And then how to make your foundation model to access from your external knowledge base, and how to set that up easily in your AWS, and why we are actually doing it. We have seen all that. And we also saw how that RAG works, and we implemented the same. And if you want your agent to perform a couple of actions around how to do it, like for example, to make an API call to access knowledge base and then get back a series of decisions and reasons to make much more decisions, we can do that. We also saw how that step-by-step instruction is done and what it is capable of. And we also saw a little bit of theories around that, where what is chain of thought, what is React. And we saw how the Bedrock agent is very easy to create. And we saw the whole solution, how that solution works. And I think it was pretty fair, simple, based on however we learned. And we also saw how to evaluate your foundation models. It is automatic and human. And automatic, you evaluate that in different tasks such as open-ended generation and so on. And then with the prompt data set, you try to see how well your foundation models are responding, and you create a metric out of it. And humans is where the humans evaluate whether how well the foundation model is being giving out the responses. So those are stuff. We have one question from Bhavesh. Yeah. How model evaluation works for Amazon title plus knowledge data base given for a custom data set. Okay. So let's go back to our evaluation over here. So here, from what I know so far, the evaluation is only available for the existing foundation models, not for foundation models plus knowledge base. So we are only going to evaluate the foundation models. We are not going to evaluate how well it's going to get it from the knowledge base as well. So But you can supply your own custom data set and to see how it performs well. So how to do it? So when you do it, you can use your own prompt data set to give that as well. That's one thing. But you're only going to evaluate the foundation model, but not the foundation model plus knowledge base. I hope that answered your question. But thank you so much for the very interesting question. That's a good one. Perfect. So now, are we ready to go ahead and know what is the task for the this session? So we have been learning and we have been doing that. We have been expressing what we learned so far. And in the first session of the whole bootcamp, you submitted over 100 plus Party Rock apps, and you have been constantly writing blogs and so from time to time. So today's task, I understand that this is going to be an expensive demo and stuff. So we're not going to do demos, or I'm not going to ask you to do uh, the real the this one unless you have credits and costs. The task for the day is for the beginners. Okay, go ahead and write a blog or create a social media, like a complete nice infographic way of expressing whatever you learned today. So you can even write about one specific thing, or you can write one specific thing in detail, or you can write about multiple topics together as well. You can write as a social media post, you can create a blog if you write allowed to write a blog, or if you want, this is something special, if you wanted to shoot a 30-second or 60-second self-explanatory video about what you learned about Amazon Bedrock, or what does a RAG does, why, how does a RAG really work, why do we have knowledge base, what is an agent, Amazon Bedrock agent, what is its purpose, why do we evaluate models? So, if model foundation models, if you're able to create a blog in specific topics or together, or create a reel or a video, you can do that. That's a task for the beginners. For advanced, this is again a disclaimer that it's going to involve cost. You can write a detailed blog about how you can write a very good use case. Don't follow the same demo, but try to create a use case and then associate a knowledge base and then see how that works. Okay, try to do that. And I want you guys not just to do that from your playground, uh, try to invoke those models from both of three, because we already learned how to do that. So this is a task for your beginners. Is there any doubts in the task? Where you have to submit? Go ahead and submit in Amazon, in AWS User Group Madurei's Creator Club. So it is bit.ly. I'll paste it in the comments as well. So bit.ly/AWS UG MDU. It's all in capitals. How do you have to go and do it? Let me show you that. So this is the AWS User Group's website. Go ahead and log in. You can visit about the other details, whatever we have it here. Go to Creators Club. So this is where you have to submit your submission. Read the rules and then make a submission. So this gives you a form, and you're going to give me your email, your name, and your meetup profile. A lot of people asked what is a meetup profile. So I'm going to just show you that as well. So when you log in to your meetup, just go ahead and log into your meetup.com. And then when you go here and click on your My Profile, it shows you this is, we are going to track this profile URL. That's what you're going to go and paste it here. This is going to ensure that whether you are a member of both User Group Madurai and Dehradun as well. So go ahead and do that. And what you have to do is, you can say that you're not part of those club events, so you can mark it no, don't answer this. If you're going to write an Instagram reel, if you're going to shoot a 30-second video, make it as an Instagram reel, or you're going to complete with animations and everything, or a long video or 30, 60-second video, or if you want to do a own video, so it's still fine. So we will, you can mark it if you wanted to make a social media carousel, but like a proper infographic way, you can do that. Or you can go ahead and write blogs, whatever it is. Click submit your URL of the blogs. It might be your dev2 or medium blog, and then yes, and so on. So we will pick up the best submissions, and we will also float it, and we will also post it from our social media handles and a lot of other stuff. So this is it. I guess that's pretty much self-explanatory. Okay, before my Mac dies out from the this one, we are going to conclude the session quite soon. So beginners, write a blog or a social media post, not just social media post, or go for an Instagram reel or a YouTube short video, like from 30 to 60 seconds. Pick out a specific topic or a group of topic. Explain in your own words how you learned it. So that's the reason I asked you guys to start noting down what you learned today. And if you have credits and you can manage your own cost, only if you're able to manage your own cost, go and write a very good use case or blog in detail about how you implemented this Amazon Bedrock and do it. And feel free to if you are in Instagram, you can post it in your Instagram and give us an invite collaborator access as well. If you're writing a blog, do post it in your social handle and tag us. We will also review it and repost. Most importantly, your submissions will be recorded only when you go to this Creators Club and then go ahead and submit your task. So all this information will be collected as a resource and will be sent to you out in the WhatsApp group. So that is going to be the end of today's session. So one final thing, always be passionate to learn something new and always be curious to share it with others. And that's all it. And if you haven't connected with me, feel free to scan this QR code. It redirects to my handles of LinkedIn and everything, and also our user groups and meetup groups. Feel free to do that. And I hope this session was quite effective as well as interesting. And if you have any doubts, please reach out to me in the DMs in the LinkedIn, or you can comment down in the YouTube session. So thank you so much. I hope it was insightful. And I will drop down the necessary resources in the WhatsApp group very soon by end of the day. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Vivek, for sharing your expertise with us. Your insights have been very valuable, and I hope everyone enjoyed polishing their learnings. And most importantly, as Vivek already discussed about the activity and or the task which you have to perform, so uh, we'll be sharing a form link, and already we have shared also. So you have to submit it tagging us. And lastly, to ensure your attendance in the session, scan this QR or fill the form given in the chat. So meanwhile, I would love to ask, like, as this was your second session, right, Vivek? So what motivates you to keep coming back and contributing to events like these?
Yep. So besides my hectic startup schedule, I've been also traveling across and running my own events in my own user group, as well as collaborating with other user groups as well. So even Bhavesh can also tell that I used to be also frequent visitor and attendee over the Gujarat events, and this is the first time we have collaborated, and we are making a huge success. So what really motivates me to do this is I always like to learn something new, and when I learn something new and when I experiment and do it by myself, I learn a lot of stuff. For example, I a little bit struggle today about how to set up the right IAM access and so on. So these are all intricacies won't be really mentioned out in documentation and stuff. You have to figure it out something on your own way. And these sessions like this will help you to save 1 or 2 hours or a couple of hours as a developer effort. So my whole satisfaction here is to comment out and tell to people how what I did and what I learned, and also enable other people to learn along with me. And that's the whole motivation behind running a community and delivering sessions like this. And it was a very nice response that we have been getting from AWS Dehradun's bootcamp. More than over 1,000 registered people. A lot of people have been active in their comment section, asking doubts and telling answers, which is a huge motivation for me to come back and deliver this second session. Yeah,
Yeah, that's true. And love to hear that you are loving this boot camp and
sure.
so much motivated. So I hope you would have taken this screenshot to mark your attendance. We have also pinned it in the chat section. So lastly and most important part, remember to complete your task before the next session. Share your progress and reflection with the community to enhance your learning experience. And we'll be sharing the form in the WhatsApp group also with all the instructions. And thank you to everyone of you for your enthusiastic engagement throughout the session. We trust that your questions have been thoroughly addressed and that you found value in the discussions. So we have more exciting sessions lined up. So stay tuned for updates. Follow us on social media handles for the latest news and events. Below in the description, you can find link to Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram to connect with us. Thank you to all the participants. Let's continue this journey and make the most of AWS and generative AI. Have a great day. See you on July 12th at 5 p.m. on the same platform.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.